So right now, the Pokemon market has been a bit slower than it was a few months ago. There's not much craziness going on. I mean, we have some pockets here and there. For example, recently, Celebration, some cards got bought out. ETBs also went up in price. Hidden Fates, the same thing. Cards got bought out. ETBs went up. And other than that, really not that much overall in the Scarlet and Violet era. Like most things have been pretty stable, but there's been a few things that I've noticed that I wanted to point out here in this video, starting with Paldea Evolved booster boxes. So I recently made a video talking about Paldea Evolved booster boxes and how they were going to be the first booster box to hit $400, and I believe in a few weeks that it would hit 400. Now, if we look at right now where they're currently at, they're still right now not at 400, but we're very close. If you look at the past week, on average, 5 boxes have been selling every single day. And when you actually see the first page here, it hits $400. So you can see over here, there's around 17 boxes before it hits $400. So we're getting pretty close. I believe in a couple weeks, we'll be there at $400. And it will be interesting to see how this box behaves when it hits $400. Because I've noticed sort of this $400 price point looking at Sword and Shield, how it seems to be somewhat of a wall for boxes. So, for example, Brilliant Stars, Chilling Rain, Astral Radiance, and Silver Tempest is not even $400. Never really hit 400. But those, sets I just mentioned, Chilling, Astral, Brilliant, they seem to be hitting this $400 wall because, they did go up recently, I guess during that, Sword and Shield hype thing like a month or two ago. But after that, they've gone back down. Like a lot of those boxes were $400. They went up to 500, and now they're back to 400. It's this weird area of like $400 to $500 where boxes tend to stagnate for a little bit of time, or they tend to just start skyrocketing and go even further up. And that's sort of what we saw with Fusion Strike, how it was different from like the other sets. I guess Lost Origin also went up to like 600, and now it's down to like 500. But Fusion Strike was a perfect example of a box that was pretty much the same price as some of the other sets. Like Fusion at one point was the same as Chilling, was the same as Lost Origin, but it started to pull away, right? Fusion, originally hit a high of 500, then later on, just recently, they went up all the way to like 900, and then it dropped back down. Now they're in the mid 700s, but still way more than the other boxes that are in the $400 range. So when this hits 400, it will be interesting to see how this behaves, because it might just stagnate here for a while, and then the other Scarlet and Violet booster boxes start to catch up, because that's sometimes what happens when a booster box in the era becomes so expensive, unless it's like Evolving Skies or something. Usually the boxes, if they pull away far enough, they tend to stagnate for a while, especially, Paldea Evolved. It's not like a super old set yet. It's around 2 years old, so it's not extremely old. So it's already $400. So it will be interesting to see if it goes any higher than 400, or if it just starts to stagnate there for a little bit of time. Now, if we actually see how much supply is on the market above $400, there's not that much, but it's really hard to even gauge how much supply there'll be when this does really, hit 400, because when it hits that price point, there'll probably be a lot more people that will list. So it's not really relevant to talk about the supply here, but for it to hit 400, it is seemingly going to be pretty soon here based on the recent sales volume we've been having. Now, Paldea Evolved, it also being a pretty new set, like it's only 2 years old, so it's not really that old. There is actually a case premium going on right now if you check recent sales on eBay. So if you do the math right now with the market price, $360, and you multiply it by 6, you come out to $2160, so $2,160. But if you actually look at sales on eBay, you can see here, I guess first listed, there is none around that price point, right? There's only 2 cases listed. There's one here for $2,900 and one on bid that hasn't finished yet for on like $2,100. But if you actually look at sales, they've been selling for a good amount more. You can see recently there's been a bid for $2,600, which is about $400 more than what the market price would be individually. Here we had one that sold for $2,900, one here that sold for $2,650, one here that sold for around $2,600. So there is a bit of a case premium going on with Paldea Evolved booster boxes, even though this is relatively new. So it's interesting to see that it's already happening for Paldea Evolved, which just goes to show that this set is getting pretty scarce. So like I said, when this hits 400, we'll see if it keeps going up, because it does already have like a decent case premium to it. Now next here, I want to talk about the PC ETBs of Prismatic. Now, I recently made a video talking about how investors would probably regret not buying these in like 2 years, and I still hold by that. Now, I wanted to show you guys that at least so far, prices seem to have hit a bottom. And I mentioned that in the video. I don't believe these are going to go much lower than they're at. Maybe they'll drop to like 200 flat, but I don't see them going much further down. And I still, think that's probably going to be true here. In the past few days, it hasn't gone down anymore, but we're gonna have to wait another week to really see from this, restock we got like about a week or two ago, where prices end up. But I think we are pretty much at the bottom, and I still would highly recommend, if you haven't picked any up, check locally. Some people, not many, but are listing some of these for like $200 flat, and I feel like if you can pick these up for $200 flat, I mean, it's a great opportunity. I haven't yet found a seller that I can buy in bulk. Because I previously told you guys I'm willing to buy these, like I want to, but I'm not gonna meet up with like 10 people to buy all these ETBs. So I'm still waiting for someone to list a large amount at at least market or like under. If not, then I'm just not gonna buy them. But that's just my I guess just personal take on that. But for any of you guys out there that missed out on the opportunity from the first restock, I feel like this is still a great opportunity, and you can see, as prices have gone down, look at the sales volume. The last time this happened, look at this. Literally the exact same pattern. Prices dropped, sales volume increased, prices went back up eventually. You look at what's happening here, the exact same thing. So I think these are still a great buy at this current price point. Even if you're buying up market, to be honest, it's perfectly fine. But it's just the fact that last time I was paying under market, and I don't really feel like paying, because if I buy online and taxes, all those sorts of things, I mean, it'd still be a good pickup, but I already have a good amount. So for me, the only thing that's going to entice me to buy even more is if I can find a person on Facebook Marketplace or something that I can buy a larger quantity at market price or under. Now, I wanted to show you guys because, Prismatic Evolutions was sort of the start of there not being of any availability for PC ETB cases, because after this, they changed everything to be like a max of like 2 or 1. And Prismatic Evolutions was interesting because the first initial release they did for the PC ETBs, you could buy in case quantity, but then they took down the listing and then relisted it where you could only buy 2 PC ETBs, and that's what I got. So some of these cases are selling for large amounts above what market price would be individually, because they didn't really have cases available for that long. They were earlier in the day when they first dropped, then at the end of the day they were just available in quantities of 2. So these are selling for a pretty crazy premium. Right now, if you do the math, the market price was what, $215 a PC ETB multiplied by 4, which is in a case, that's $860. Cases are selling for $1,700. So that is about a 2x premium for the case, which is pretty crazy. And yeah, so there is that case premium. If you have one, it's pretty much double the price of what market price is, which to me is ridiculous. So some people, I guess, are selling now, but in the future this will probably get to some crazy amounts, but we'll see how much this case premium can really go, because it is already ridiculously expensive at what it's at right now. But it's interesting to see how expensive it is. Now, next here, Twilight Masquerade. I wanted to update you guys on this because this booster box seemingly is going to hit 300 pretty soon, but the sales volume is pretty weak for Twilight. Like when you compare Twilight to Paldea, Paldea's sales volume is a lot stronger than Twilight. Twilight, I think, is a somewhat popular set, but it's definitely not as popular as Paldea Evolved. So for this to hit 300, it needs to go through what, about like 6-10 boxes, like around there, before it hits like the $300 range. So I mean, this box, I mean, the sales volume is not really that high and kind of varies, so don't really know when this is exactly going to happen, but it's creeping up there. It's getting pretty close to 300, but we're not quite there yet. It's not something where Paldea Evolved, for example, I think it's going to happen like a week or two. Twilight, I don't know how long it's going to take, because the sales volume is very inconsistent, and who knows with Twilight, because it's really hard to predict with the sales volume, but it is close to 300 now. So lastly, Destin Rivals. I wanted to talk about this because at this point, it's been over a month since the set has been released. And at this point, I thought we would start to see sales prices starting to fall off, but it's still holding pretty strong. But I do feel like in a month or so, I don't know, we could maybe start to see some prices dropping, because I'm shocked that sales volume and prices have not dropped at all. And especially it's during the summer sales going down, and all those sorts of things. We're not seeing that with Destin Rivals, so it's still holding very strong. If you look at it here in the past few weeks, still around 50 boxes are selling every single day at $250. It really has not dropped a lot at all, and I'm very shocked. So Destin Rivals perform very strong and still during the summer, but I feel like in a month or so, I wouldn't be surprised if then we start to see a fall, because I honestly thought we would probably see it now because it is the summer, but it hasn't happened. So maybe it's just bound to happen soon, but who knows? But it's still holding very strong. So those are just some things I wanted to update you guys in the market, some interesting stuff. But overall, the market has just been stable. There hasn't been that much going on, but here's a few things I found that was interesting to talk about. So that's all I have in this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.